A new day, a new podcast. And this is our 10th podcast today. And I have a very special guest with me today, which is Reese. And Reese, I would love to hear a quick introduction.
Absolutely. My name is Reese. I'm the owner of Progress Playground, which is a speech and communication platform where we teach people how to speak with influence and poise.
Okay. And how did you come up with this idea?
Sure. So it was a long time ago. I'll take you all the way back to the beginning, right? So, Reese, actor, drama school. He's in drama school now, and at this drama school, they specialize in rhetoric. So they're teaching you the art of public speaking. I don't know if you know what rhetoric is, but rhetoric is where we use linguistics, or language rather, to influence, persuade, and to entice the masses, to inspire action right there. So I'm learning this at drama school. And as we're indulging in this, I'm living, sleeping, crying this every single day, having pens thrown at my head for forgetting my lines. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't the healthiest moment, but so grateful for this, so grateful. And it got to a point where, of course, I finished and I graduated. Now I'm thinking, great, now I'm going to be Leonardo DiCaprio, living my best life. And then I was humbled, working in a juice bar until I had to make my break. But eventually, I got to this level. I started doing a lot of West End shows as well. I did a lot of radio plays. I did a few films as well, which was fun. And afterwards I realized, well, this is interesting. Everything that I'm learning now and everything that I have learned is just communication. Understanding your vocal anatomy, vocal biology, that's elocution, that's communication. Understanding presence on stage, how to feel that, embed that confidence within you, that's communication. How to influence and persuade using your words, that's communication. This is all just communication. And I said, cool, let me coach. And I started coaching for free. And funny enough, actually, the clients, my first few clients, they had dramatic results, and I was thinking, damn, I should have charged them. And now we're here. Years later, Progress Playground, and it's been a very exciting journey so far.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure it is, especially going from, say, drama and theatrics to communication coaching. And today in this podcast, we'll be focusing a lot on articulation and also a lot about your vocals. So I want to understand, what is one thing that has changed in your articulation after drama school?
That's a good question. One thing there are a multitude of things that have changed when it comes to articulation. So first of all, we need to understand articulation because it's a blanket term. Articulation could be the way you actually enunciate your word pronunciation. Articulation could be articulation of thoughts. Articulation could be the words you use, understanding your lexicon. So where should we start from? The words? Should we start from enunciation and pronunciation? Where do you think we should start from?
I think let's start from enunciation and pronunciation first.
Okay, so enunciation and pronunciation. So the voice, as we know it, is made up of three main components. As we know it, of course. The articulators, the resonators, and the diaphragm. So the articulators are responsible for shaping the sounds of the words themselves. These are made up of your lips, your tongue, your soft palate. So give me a na. Give me that sound. Exactly. That's the soft palate, and the hard palate. Give me a duh.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So, what happens if these aren't strong enough, or if these aren't in sync? Well, we tend to slur, stumble, or mumble over our words as well. Of course, if our mouth isn't strong enough, then we end up speaking like this. Exactly. Like that. So, these are responsible for speech clarity. Then we have the resonators, which are responsible for the warmth beneath your words. So if we have weak resonance, our voice tends to be flat and quite airy. If we have too strong resonance, then our voice is a bit too bassy. So we need to find that midline right there. And lastly, we have the diaphragm. Now, the diaphragm is interesting. It's a little muscle by your stomach here. If your diaphragm, let's say, if you tense your stomach really tight right now, then the words aren't going to be as strong. You really struggle with getting those words out. So when we're public speaking, for example, or we're just speaking to people in general, if we really tense our stomach, due to nerves or anxiety, then it obstructs our words. It stops our words from becoming even more powerful. And guess what? It removes our authority right there. So we need to practice something called diaphragmatic breathing, where we breathe from our stomach rather than our chest. Chest breathing is called shallow breathing. Stomach breathing is called diaphragmatic breathing. And the more we indulge in this, the better and clearer our voice becomes. And this is the vocal system as a whole.
Okay. And I get that there are three components to this, but I think one thing a lot of people struggle with is finding that vocal resonance. I've seen a lot of people go through a very monotonous voice. So how can someone build resonance in their voice?
Okay, so resonance in regards to making your voice deeper or adding color to your voice. So let's start with a deeper voice, a more resonant, deeper voice. So if we want a deeper voice, we can do lip trills. So we work our way from the upper registers of our voice, what we call the M2 voice, and the lower registers, the M1 voice. And we can play around with that to understand our vocal range and develop more color within our voice as well. So if you want a deeper voice, just hum into your chest and really feel it in your chest right here. And what you'll realize is you'll unlock that resonant voice, the chamber, the chest chamber right here, and this will over time allow your voice to become more resonant. But we need to practice this every single day. So I recommend doing this around 3 rounds, 1 minute per round, so that's 3 minutes per day, and over time we develop a more resonant voice. Now there are other parts to this, of course. When it comes to vocal exercises, they work in symbiosis. As I mentioned earlier, you have the articulators, the resonators, and the diaphragm. So the more we practice all of these in symbiosis together, the better our articulation becomes. We have speech clarity, we have a more resonant and authoritative voice, and we understand breath and how to use it to create that authoritative presence right there.
Okay. And I want to ask you this, that how has your voice affected your life? Because there's so many instances where people with a shriller voice or someone who is insecure about their voice is generally insecure wherever they show up. So how does it feel to have a confident and resonant voice?
Well, first of all, it feels amazing because it's more than just authority. It's about vocal control. So the more you are able to control your voice when you're doing a public speech or in a meeting, for example, the more confident you feel. So there are times when you need to access what we call the M2 voice, your head voice. This is where we're speaking in quite a genuine and it's a friendly way. And then at times you might want to go into the lower parts of your voice, the lower registers. And this is more authority right here. So, Sumit, we could be speaking like this, and then eventually I can change it and it'll be more friendly over time. And that's how you can play around with your voice. But for me personally, how it's changed my life, it's again, understanding that confidence within that I have and understanding how to create that authoritative presence in a meeting, for example.
Okay.
I want to hit you with a fun fact actually. So as children, when we hear a deep resonant voice, it's synonymous at times, it would have been synonymous with someone, authority figure of course. And when we hear something that's quite light, it's synonymous with friendliness. So this is quite experimental right here. If you're in sales, for example, and you really want someone to listen, then we can access that deeper voice and slow down right there. And then afterwards, to allow the message to embed within their minds, we can just throw it away and go back to our lighter voice up here. And then eventually, if you want them to listen again, we go down to that deeper voice again. So we can play around with this.
Okay. But usually when someone is building their voice, right, they feel very unfamiliar and they might also feel fake about it. How did you deal with that?
So about authenticity, basically, making it feel authentic to yourself. Well, the more we practice understand our vocal range, the easier it is for us to feel more authentic within our voice. So this is why it's so important to practice vocal exercises every single day. Vin Yang, he has this amazing quote. I really like him. So he says that the voice is like a piano, and the piano has around 88 keys, I believe. Now, we can go all the way up here and speak up here, or we can go all the way down here and speak down there. Now, we don't access that range at all. It sounds weird if we were to use this in a meeting. However, the more we practice this, the more we realize that, oh, okay, speaking up here at times isn't that bad, and speaking down there at times isn't that bad. You unlock something that was once unfamiliar, but is now familiar, and you can practice around with that. It's like playing a video game, for example, and there are certain parts of the map which you haven't unlocked yet. And you say, I don't want to go there, it doesn't relate to me. Well, if you go there now, you might find something which actually relates to you and makes you feel something. So go there, unlock that part of the map. And it's the same with our voice as well. Go to these extremities, unlock that part, and see where it takes you. And you never know, you might find something. You might hit gold.
Definitely. And have you ever considered voice acting perhaps?
Yes, I did quite a lot of voice acting just after drama school and during drama school as well. And it was really fun. Playing around with these character voices and animations, and again, understanding the extremities of your voice, because the voice really is an instrument. Everyone has the ability to sing, for example, but we just don't realize it because we don't unlock those parts of our voice. And it's so imperative. It's an imperative to understand this. Again, adding to that confidence right there, fueling you with an energy and allowing everyone to feel your presence as well as see your presence.
Okay. And for me right now, I have a bit of a sore throat. Would you recommend something that maybe I can take weekly that can help strengthen my voice?
Yeah, sure. So we need to, and I want to go back to something because I didn't mention something that's really important.
Okay.
When it comes to developing a deep voice and also with a sore throat as well, first of all, we need to drink a lot of water. We need to hydrate ourselves. We need to make sure that we are a healthy, active human being. So exercise really works out, no pun intended. But we also need to drink a lot of water, as I said, lemon water, and try not to scream too much. This is why it's so important to activate the diaphragm. Because if we don't activate the diaphragm, then our voice tends to be stuck here, and this leads to vocal fry, basically. So we need to activate the diaphragm so we can clear our voice, basically. Now, when it comes to the sore throat and also having a deeper register, yawn, yes, yawn. I like that. And what it does is it opens up the vocal tract, allowing for more air to push through. Because if our vocal tract is quite narrow and sore like this, squeezed together, then it stops air from pushing through. So we need to open that up, and it will allow for a more resonant voice, as well as getting rid of your sore throat, but easing the sore throat as well.
That makes sense. I'll definitely try that out. And when you are pronouncing certain words, how do you really stress on them? Like, I know that you have a very strong grip on words. So what have you done to really help you articulate so clearly?
Well, that's interesting. So we go back to the resonators, sorry, not the resonators. We go back to the articulators. Lips, tongue, soft palate, hard palate. So in order to pronounce words clearly, there are many things that we can do, exercises. I'll take you through two. First one is to overpronounce words when you're speaking. So This looks weird right now, but the more we practice this in our own time, the clearer our sounds become, because these are responsible for speech clarity. So the more we over-enunciate, the more we stretch out our mouth, and our mouth gets used to pronouncing these words properly. Please do this in your own time. Don't be going around the street saying, hey, how you doing? You're right. No, you might just get cancelled, or you might just get sectioned. So the second thing that we can do is put a pen in our mouth. I don't have a pen around me right now.
I have a pen. You can tell me.
Okay, nice. I'll coach you through this. Put a pen in your mouth. Put it through your teeth like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bit further back. Tiny bit further back. Nice. And now we can do tongue twisters, for example. I don't know if you know any off the cuff. Do you know any tongue twisters?
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Amazing. Now I want you to do that again, but this time overpronounce your words like that.
Okay.
How much wood?
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck Wood.
Okay, now take the pen out of your mouth. Say it again.
Weird. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Now, how did that feel?
Definitely, I think my tongue, I think it was more active the second time I did it. And I think my mouth was even wider open compared to the first time. So that is definitely
Exactly. So that's what it does. It gives you mouth awareness of your tongue and your mouth. Because we are forced now to overpronounce our words when we are speaking with the pen in our mouth. Just like our normal muscles, our mouth and tongue is also a muscle. So we need to work this out and make it more flexible for us to understand this verbal terrain, basically, for us to overpronounce words.
That makes sense. And I think when you speak, you have a very interesting skill of helping people paint a mental picture. So how do you do that?
So this is through storytelling or getting people to feel your message. Because as human beings, we feel before we think. So if you want them to get them to feel something, you paint the picture for them. And there are various storytelling methods that we can use. One could be show me rather than tell me. Instead of saying, he was scared, he walked towards the door to see what was behind it. No, he lunged towards the door in fear, hearing and seeing the drills beneath the door. And as he slowly opened the door, he was met to his destiny. So, you show me rather than tell me. I want to see, I want to feel. Another exercise that we can do within this is VAK, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So, as human beings, we live this world through our five senses. So, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and smelling. Now, the strongest ones there, when it comes to storytelling, is visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So, if you want people to feel your message, then what we have to do is incorporate VAK. So, what do you see, or what do you want them to see? What do you want them to hear, or what do you hear? What do you want them to feel, or what do you feel? And over time, what will happen is you'll start to feel the sun kissing the back of your neck. You may start to see the blinding rays of sunshine protruding through or penetrating your sunglasses. You may start to hear the birds struggling to flap in the wind. And this is how we can put that story or put that image into people's minds and get them to feel something right there.
That makes sense. And like, were you always socially confident, or was there a Reese who was also introverted or socially anxious?
This is interesting. I've gone through many periods of my life. I've gone through that very confident, let's say extroverted, hofty version of Reese. Then afterwards, mainly after drama school, I was more introverted, reclusive, struggled to articulate my thoughts. Why? Because I was hit with a vitamin B12 deficiency. So I don't know if you know what a vitamin B12 deficiency is, but it leads you to having low vitamin B12, of course, which leads you to brain fog, extreme brain fog, to the point where you can't even remember your mother's birthday. So you can imagine that did not go down well. My articulation was poor. I was slurring over my words because it really affects your muscles, especially your facial muscles as well. I struggled with articulating my thoughts. Really did, because of that brain fog. And I had crippling social anxiety to the point where I didn't want to speak, because every time I would use my mouth, I would be met with ridicule. People would laugh in my face, and tail goes beneath my legs and in between my legs, and I walk off in embarrassment. Now, during this, I said, okay, I don't like this feeling. I want to move on. I need something different. And I said to myself, okay, what do I do here? Went to the doctors, they said, take these supplements. Took the supplements, amazing. They did help. But alongside of this, I decided to do verbal fluency exercises. Now, this was random, so random. I just randomly found this on YouTube. And I said, okay, let me play around with this. So verbal fluency is our ability to quickly and efficiently produce words under certain constraints. It could be time constraints, it could be stress, it could be that pressure of your boss breathing down your neck and saying, perform. Now, the more you practice this, the better your articulation becomes, the easier it is for you to produce words on the spot. And eventually, the more I practice this, I realized, oh wow, I'm getting better at this. And afterwards, I realized, well, once I was cured from that vitamin B12 deficiency, I realized that my articulation was 10 times better than what it was before, pre-vitamin B12 deficiency. And I said to myself, that's crazy. How is that a thing? And I realized that was mainly due to the verbal fluency exercises, which were amazing. And at that time, you could throw anything at me and I was able to speak off the cuff on this. And it really benefited me on a deep, profound level.
What sort of exercises were they?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. So one that I absolutely adore is something called reverse conversations. And we do this in improv a lot, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to say a random statement or sentence. Now, the last word in that sentence becomes the first word in the next sentence. So I like using a phone. A phone is something you use to speak to your grandmother who's abroad. Abroad is something that I absolutely love because it reminds me of being on holiday. On holiday, I feel the sun rays beating down my neck, and it feels really special to me. It feels like home, and so on and so on and so on. Now we do this for 1 whole minute, no filler words, try not to pause, and anything that comes to your mind, just say it. There are rules, but it can be as weird and wacky as possible. And what happens is off the cuff, we are able to improvise in conversations more. We are able to generate words quickly on the spot. That's what verbal fluency is. We are also able to be present with someone in a conversation, and it really forces our active listening muscles, especially when we do this with another person as well. So that's one exercise I recommend everyone does, and it's so efficient. It works so well.
Okay, that is definitely interesting. So essentially, there is a sentence, and with the last word of the sentence, you have to create a brand new sentence, correct?
Exactly. And if we want to take it to the next level, the second round, after doing this for a minute and a half, by the way, the second round would be you creating some sort of linearity with this. So create a story out of it if you want to. And this is how we become more verbally dexterous, more cognitively flexible, so we can tailor our message always to whatever it needs to be tailored towards.
That is absolutely wonderful that these exercises exist. In fact, nobody really talks about them. Verbal fluency is very important, and your articulation is very important. And I also want to ask you, how did you develop your imagination and creativity?
No one's ever asked me that question, but I'm glad you have. Well, being at drama school, of course, really did help. So within this now, we just tell a story. We just tell stories. We just play around with our words, for example. One that I absolutely love, again, during drama school, we did this all the time, but it's just you starting a story and then the other person continuing this story. There once was a man who decided to go for a walk around Rio de Janeiro. Yes, and as he walked around Rio de Janeiro, he realized one thing, that everyone was so good looking and it was ridiculous. It was very ridiculous because he was unable to control himself at times. So he had to run in the stores and hide. Whatever comes to your mind, just play around with it, with a partner, with yourself. And again, it adds to that creativity. You become so creative and you judge yourself less, because I've realized with a lot of people, and especially myself as well, I fall victim to this. I judge my thoughts before they even leave my mouth. No, I shouldn't say that. No, I might get cancelled. They might judge me. I might lose a friend. Well, no, because if we really want to truly articulate our thoughts, well, one of the reasons why we get thought castration, let's call it that, is because we judge ourselves in our mind. So, if you just say what's on your mind without the fear of being cancelled, what you realize is you'll trust yourself even more, and it'll be so much easier to articulate your thoughts. Classic example, and I understand this. You're in a business meeting, high stakes scenario. You work for the Rothschild, for example. There are certain frameworks which you have to work within, and there are certain words which you have to avoid, for example. High pressure scenario. So that leads us to a lot of pressure on our minds. We have to really think about what we're going to say. Whereas if we had that same meeting with friends, for example, we can say anything off the cuff. It doesn't matter. It's so easy to articulate easier to articulate our thoughts with our friends. So we have to find a way to balance the two. We have to find a way to just speak off the cuff and say whatever is on our mind. And eventually it'll get to a point where it's so easy to articulate your thoughts in these meetings, for example.
But what about verbal filters? Like sometimes what happens is when you're really good at articulating your thoughts, you don't hold back and think that is the other person going to take offense to this, or what might they think about it? What do you think of verbal filters?
Verbal filters, as in what's stopping yourself from saying, explain this to me again, sorry?
Okay. If I'm really good at articulating my thoughts and the thought comes to my mind and I don't even hold on a second before saying it, sometimes our thoughts might work against us, right? And okay, let's just say that you bake me a really nice cake. And for some reason, instead of sugar, you put salt in that cake. And you ask me, how is the cake? So when I take that first bite, I can either say, ew, Reese, you can't cook. Or I can say that I really appreciate the effort. So I want to understand about the verbal filters when it comes to articulation.
Okay, so you're talking about how to, when you're speaking, how to tailor your language to stop people from getting offended or to help. Yeah. Okay. So in saying this, then we have to be conscious of the other person. And there's one thing I say all the time, which my mentor told me. You have to be, if you want to be less self-conscious, or you being self-conscious is you being selfish, basically. So if you want to be less self-conscious, you need to be conscious of the other person. So in this scenario, we're going to be conscious of the other person. How are we going to tailor language to make that other person feel good? Well, we understand that this person really appreciates cooking, for example. Now, within this, we need to understand, okay, cool, they appreciate cooking. So ask questions, ask the right questions. Oh, so how long have you been cooking for? And then they respond. Oh, interesting. And have you tasted the cake yourself, for example? And they respond, I actually haven't tasted the cake. Well, maybe you should taste the cake. And now they're tasting the cake. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, my bad. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to poison you with salt. And this is one way to work around that, for example, just to ask questions rather than saying exactly what's on your mind. And people tend to usually open up when you ask questions. So that's one way of, instead of actually having that verbal filter within your mind and thinking, okay, how can I tailor language to this person to make them feel better? Nah, it's more so ask questions and they will naturally tell you exactly how they feel.
I think this is good. And since you are into communication and you have spent a long time with articulation and really understanding your thoughts, so when it comes to conflict management, how does that work? Do you find yourself in very aggressive situations and you just want to say whatever is on your mind, or are you able to control yourself better because of your background?
Yes. Okay, that's such a good question. So the most important thing within conflict resolution is the pause. That 2-second pause, 2, 5, 10, 20, 5-hour pause, whatever, is so imperative. It could be the difference between you having a divorce and you getting into a divorce and you having an even happier marriage, for example. Because within that pause, you might feel highly irascible. You might feel aggressive. But that pause calms you down and makes you realize that we are humans and we can be impulsive sometimes. So first of all, you gotta pause. You gotta embrace that silence right there. You gotta love it. Afterwards, we ask questions again. Be less conscious of yourself and more conscious of the other person. So why are we in this situation right now? Let's actually focus on this situation. We need to frame this correctly. So be the one that's in control. So right now we are angry with each other. Now I want to understand why we are angry with each other. I want to get to the root cause of it. So talk to me. What's on your mind? Really pay attention to them. And eventually they will open up. And then afterwards, do you mind me giving my background and how I feel? Do you mind if I share how I feel?
Yeah, you can share.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, there we go. And then I'll open up. And now we've gone from shaking our fists at the heaven and being angry with each other to having an open dialogue and saying, okay, you feel this way, I feel this way. How can we meet in the middle here? And that's one of the best things that you can do. It's so simple when it comes to conflict resolution.
Wow. I think a lot of people. I think they should teach these things in school, because we grow up learning math and physics and all these things, but we don't know how to talk to another person, how to handle conflict. And these are wonderful ways that you've suggested.
100%, especially as children as well. We are highly irascible at times. We're so impulsive. So if we know how to control our emotions and understand, yes, we are emotional beings, we will be angry, we will be sad, then we will have more understanding, more awareness of ourselves, and we will be more emotionally intelligent as well.
Yeah. And since we're talking about emotions, a question that comes to my mind is that what is the most painful thing that you have experienced in your life, and what has it taught you?
I've gone through many painful moments in my life. One that comes to mind, the first thing that came to mind there was that vitamin B12 deficiency.
Okay.
That was extremely painful. It felt like I got a sense of depersonalization right there. Now, I don't know if you've ever played video games, or if you ever did play video games as a kid, or even now. Yeah. Call of Duty, for example. Are you familiar with Call of Duty?
Yeah.
The war game?
I've never played it, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. So any first person shooter, basically, you see the gun, you're playing the video game, and you're from the perspective of the player. You see the gun right there. You don't see the person behind the gun. So this is exactly what it felt like when I had that vitamin B12 deficiency. I wasn't in control of my body. I was playing from the perspective of someone holding the gun. I was the observer of the person controlling these hands, basically. I didn't feel a part of this shell that we call a body. And again, it was depersonalization. I wasn't within my body. So at times I was so confused. It felt like a psychedelic experience where I'm not part of this body, where I'm not part of this realm. And in conversations now, I was lost. I'm hearing these words, but I'm now hearing them through a filter of a human being. It's so odd. It was so odd. And within that, I just felt a sense of, at times, I felt like giving up. I thought, my gosh, that was horrible. I don't know what to do here. So what did that teach me? Well, it taught me resilience, first of all. It taught me afterwards to not give up and to stay strong and to really push through moments where you really are struggling, where you really do struggle. It taught me, at times, that faking it won't work. It has to be true, feel true to you. Because if it's inauthentic, my gosh, people see through that. They could be terrible at reading people. Yet they still feel it. Because as human beings, we evolved reading body language and reading energy right there as well. So if you're inauthentic, or if something feels odd and inauthentic to you, people pick up on that. People really do pick up on that. So that's what it taught me. Resilience, to be more authentic as well, and to stay true to true to who I really am.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And while we are talking about the subject of authenticity, I think what we should be discussing is there are a lot of non-English speakers, or at least non-native English speakers, who always want to imitate the Australian accent or the British accent or the American accent. So what are your thoughts on this particular thing?
Your voice is your unique stamp. That's who you are. That's who you will always be. That's a culmination of your background, your religion, your culture, the people that you hang around with. It's a culmination of who you are. This is what makes you charisma, because charisma is just everything, a build-up of all of your past experiences up until now. So, don't do that. Don't imitate accents. The more fun, okay, this is fun. So, when you're in class, for example, and you hear that person with an accent that's different from everyone else, automatically you stand out. You become that popular kid right there. And that's what our voice is. That's what our unique stamp or accent is. It makes us stand out. That makes us unique. That's what makes us that popular kid. So, in saying that, instead of mimicking other accents because you might not like your accent, what I would say is practice speech clarity. because the more you practice speech clarity, the more you'll be accustomed to your voice and feel comfortable within your voice. This will improve your verbal confidence as well and will make you shine bright. So practice speech clarity. Do those vocal warm-ups. Practice articulating your thoughts on the spot. Do impromptu speeches on the spot. And over time, the more verbally confident you become, the more you'll start to love your accent and realize, hold on, this is actually better than the British accent. Right, mate, how you doing? No, man, I love my Australian accent or my Indian accent or my Ghanaian accent, for example. Embrace that. That's you. So that's what I say to that.
That's wonderful advice, definitely. And have you ever come across such a scenario where you possibly tried to imitate someone, you saw someone as such a confident speaker in the room and you just wanted to be like them? Has that happened?
Plenty of people, plenty. Two that come to mind, or one that actually comes to mind, is Russell Brand. I love the way he speaks. I love it. Now it is very quick and he has a very wide lexicon, wide range of vocabulary. And he is so in touch with linguistics and words. Personally, for me, he is an idol when it comes to the speaking field, to the speech field. Now, there were times when I did try to imitate him. I was speaking really quickly and I was using these fancy, sexy words that everyone would see me as this verbal king, for example, where everyone would see me as this verbal king. And I realized this was so inauthentic. This wasn't me. And I would be faced with these looks of, who are you? Who invited this guy to the party? Who is this guy? Again, tail between my legs, walking to the exit. So I realized that it's not the way forward. Imitating accents isn't the way, or imitating other people's speaking styles is so inauthentic and it will never work. So again, be true to you. You can expand your vocab, your lexicon, but make sure you're using words which you would use rather than someone else.
But when do you think people go overboard with the vocabulary aspect? That they just want to use fancy words all the time? Like, is there like a threshold where you should stop? Or do you just start reading each word in the dictionary?
Well, Eminem, he is actually amazing at this. Apparently he read the dictionary from start to finish and he just embedded all of these words, which led him to having this wide lexicon and of course him being a rapper. Now, do people go overboard? Yes, all the time. How do we control our vocab basically? How can we use big words? Considering that a lot of people want to use big words. Well, first of all, it's less about using big words. It's more about using words that are tailored to your scenario. Or to the perfect scenario. So I'm going to hit you with two terms here. There's the surface lexicon and the deep lexicon. The surface lexicon are words that you use on a daily basis. Good, bad, strong, weak, for example. They're words that you have instant access to right there on the spot. Come to mind. Now, the deep lexicon are words that are at the back of your mind, but you don't have instant access to. They're in the subconscious. You might have read them in a few books or heard them in a few interviews. Now, the purpose here is to get some of our deep lexicon words to our surface lexicon words. Now, how do we do this? Well, we can read, of course, but it's more about using words that are more unique to our situations. So we've all heard the word robust. That might be a deep lexicon word. Now, instead, our surface lexicon word could be strong for that deep lexicon robust. So in a meeting, for example, you might say strong all the time. Now, we're going to replace strong with robust. The systems were robust, for example, instead of strong. So this is how we can use bigger words. But it's less about using bigger words. It's more about using words that are tailored to that specific scenario right there.
I think that makes sense. And that way people they aren't judging you because you're using it for a very specific purpose. You're not using it to show off. Rather, you're using it to clearly communicate your idea.
Exactly. And you said it perfectly right there. It's about clarity, making sure that people understand exactly where you're coming from on a deeper level. And we could do this through storytelling as well. All mediums of communication, all forms of communication right there, we can use this in. So it's just about clarity of thought and making sure the audience understands where you're coming from. Instead of using the word obsequious, which is someone who bows down to you. You can just say an obsessive nature, for example. We don't need to use these fancy words.
Makes sense. And what do you think is one quality that you have gained over the years as a communicator? Something that's pretty distinct and something you're really proud of?
My ability to listen, really listen, actively listen. Now, sometimes I can go overboard with this and I forget to talk about myself, for example. So this is really refreshing speaking about myself in this interview. But that ability to really pay attention to everything that they're saying. And active listening isn't just limited to the words they use. It's also understanding their body language, reading their body language, their intonations as well. Are they speaking? Are they using upwards inflections? Are they speaking using downwards inflections, for example? Really paying attention to all of the details. And from that, I can understand, okay, they feel this way. Now I can tailor my message to them in this way as well. Or I can fully understand and really dig deep into what's going on in their lives right now. So the ability to actively listen, proactively listen.
Get that. I mean, listening is definitely a huge part of communication. In fact, the most underrated part, I would say. Because when someone actually feels like this other person is listening to me and paying attention to what I'm saying, they start to feel special, and your connection or your bond also starts to grow with them. Yeah.
I imagine that you have this with your clients as well. When you really truly listen to them, do they feel that? Do they feel that you're listening to them? Do they feel seen and heard, would you say? Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh, yeah. 100%. It's a really beautiful skill. It really is.
Definitely. It's like a conversation, you have to hold space for the other person as well. It's not only about yapping. It's about zoning in and just paying attention.
Can I ask you the same question? What is the skill, your time as a public speaking coach, what is the skill that you've learned which has helped you on a day-to-day basis, which you absolutely adore about yourself now?
Okay. Wow. So I think it just all ties back to my story, which is 10 years ago I had extreme social anxiety and I couldn't even turn on a fan. I was so scared of everything.
You couldn't turn on a fan?
Yeah, like in a classroom filled with people, I could not turn on a fan. That was how scared I was. And that was because of my weak core beliefs, because my parents are separated and as a child, I did not get much attention. So I had core beliefs that said that I wasn't valuable, or I was dumb, or I shouldn't speak. And my whole journey to changing those core beliefs and becoming a more confident individual who believes that every word he speaks is valuable today has, I think, been my biggest achievement and something I'm really, really, really proud of, because we are what we tell ourselves. That is very important to realize.
Absolutely. So many years of you actually being this introverted, socially anxious kid. Within that, what was it like communicating with other people there?
Okay, when I had social anxiety?
Yeah.
I didn't communicate with anyone. I think
At
the
all?
only person I spoke to was my mom, my brother, and my grandma and my uncle. 4 people. For at least 5-6 years, I spoke to only 4 people on a daily basis. When I went outside, I used to sit alone, I used to draw a lot, and that's how I used to spend time, but I don't think I spoke much.
So when you first started speaking with other people, how did that feel? What were the thoughts that were going on in your mind?
I think the first time I spoke, my misconception about people was broken. I used to think that they're going to judge me, they're going to hate me, but when I actually spoke to them, they were pretty nice. They were very empathetic. They were very humble. And that's when, for the first time in my life, I started enjoying conversations. And the moment I understood the true value of conversations, which a lot of people underestimate, that's when I knew I had to break out of my shell. Because one conversation can lead to a business partnership. It can help you find your life partner. It can help you find any and every person. One conversation. That's
one conversation. It's 100% agree. And I guess of course, you're now here as a result of that, as a result of you pushing through the uncomfort and you being that socially anxious kid who pushed through that uncomfort and led to who Sumit is right now. So that's really powerful. And thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. Wow. So many memories just came rushing in.
Exactly. And this is what a conversation does. It opens us up even more so. Now, one thing within this I want to say is this goes around influence and persuasion, basically. So when we're speaking, influence and persuasion is a pull, not a push. So if you want that person to feel better within a conversation, they might be feeling a bit down, disconsolate, and depressed, for example. Now, instead of saying, feel more confident in yourself, it would be better for them to remember moments where they felt confident. That's bringing them to that depressed moment all the way to that more confident version of themselves. Why? Because the mind can't determine between what's fake and what's real. So if they're imagining their most confident self, just like you right there, you imagining those conversations where you opened up and you developed deeper relationships as a result, you are now thinking and seeing everything right there. And as a result, you smiled. That was a chemical reaction to that. And that right there is a key example of what we should be doing in our conversations to make people feel better and to elevate, boost, and better our conversations. Get them to remember positive memories. Again, because the mind can't determine what's real between what's real and what's fake. So I just wanted to add that. And again, thank you so much for sharing that moment.
Yeah, I think memories are very malleable. And if you emphasize on the wrong thing, that's when you screw up. If I just keep thinking about the negative memories, then that's what my environment becomes. That's what everything around me becomes. So that is very important. So Reese, my final question to you is that what is a dream that 10-year-old Reese had and how close are you to accomplishing that?
A dream that 10-year-old Reese had, and how close am I to accomplishing that? I've already accomplished it. Now I have my own personal dreams, of course, now, but I've already accomplished that. And that was, I've always wanted to help people out. I've always known that I've had this gift of helping people out from a young age. My mum instilled this into me so much. Every single day, affirmations right there. Great, you are grateful, you are capable of achieving greatness. You are loved. You help people out. Within this, I said to myself, okay, cool. I internally knew I was good at helping people out. I had this gift and now I'm here helping people out. And as a result, well, there are plenty of results here as well. Testimonials. I had a client who was using scripts when she was speaking, and then eventually she got off those scripts when she was speaking. And it felt things like that feel so special. So I've already accomplished this dream. Now, of course, I do have other dreams now. That's personal dreams, of course, but that's one that 10-year-old Reese had.
Wow.
The ability to help people out. Thank you. Yeah.
And I think this has been a very insightful conversation. Everything from vocal exercises to really understanding our emotions to memories. We touched on a lot of things. And I really appreciate you taking the time to join this podcast and sharing your insights.
My pleasure. And thank you so much for having me here as well. It's been a really beautiful conversation and you've started the day off strong for me. Now I'm going to go to meetings and actually speak with clients now. So thank you for giving me that emotional warm up right there. I appreciate you.
And for everyone watching at home, thank you for watching this and hope you learned a thing or two. And be consistent with your vocal exercises and you will also see the magic happen. You can subscribe to the channel. I'll leave Reese's socials as well. I will see you in another podcast.